Everybody wants to get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
Hey dudes, welcome back to the bench. Today we're rating more of your guys' graffiti that you sent me over on Instagram on a scale from 1 to 10. Inky. I like the N. Also, I like the attempt in order to use the varying nib widths of a chisel tip. It's a good idea. And it's great in order to add some contrast, some variety to your strokes, but you still have to keep the other fundamentals in mind, right? You've established a pretty simplistic hand style here. You have a beautifully established baseline, a beautifully established cap line, but your mean line is not at all established. Not only do you have the letter I and N, which are a little bit more ambiguous with how they interact with the mean line, your K completely unhinged as far as the mean line is concerned, but your Y sticks beautifully to that mean line, so really you only have two letters that well establish a mean line, and in this tag specifically, you only used one of those two letters to establish the mean line, which makes your K look more chaotic, really stylistic, and as a result, it doesn't flow with anything else in the otherwise very simplistic hand style that should have had no problem flowing at all. So we'll give this a 3 out of 10. I don't think it's a bad start at all, but definitely want to focus on keeping things a little bit more simplistic. Next up, we got another throwie here, and this is something that we oftentimes see with a lot of newer graffiti artists. They have throwies that look like this, and if you're more experienced, you kind of get what I'm talking about here. They'll get a basic idea, a basic gist of how a throwie is supposed to be done, but their lines and their shapes are still kind of sloppy. So it has that level of practicality to it that your typical throwies have, but it doesn't have that refined aspect to it just yet. And this is how we know somebody's getting on the right path. So something we see in a lot of amateur graffiti artists throwies when they start to kind of get a handle on it is the bottoms of their letters will shoot out to the right and the tops will shoot out to the left. This creates a bit of negative space right about here in every single letter. Now, because we're doing throwies, we kind of want to fill that negative space. And how do we do that? Well, we take the next letter and we stack it right in that negative space. But this creates a different issue. If that's all we do and we begin to shoot that letter straight down, well, now we don't get to see any of its letter structure because the bottom of the previous letter is covering it. So how do we fix that? Well, we take the bottom of our second letter and we shoot it out to the right once again. And this creates a vicious cycle of the same issue happening for each subsequent letter. To fix this, we want to make sure the bottoms and the tops of our letter align properly with one another. Now, this isn't to say that you can't have a letter that jets out to the right or to the left, but rather if you're struggling to do those things because you're still in the process of learning throwies, then try this instead. And this is pretty good. This is a great start. We'll give this a good 3 or 4 out of 10 because there's still a lot of room for improvement. And this throwie right here is a perfect example of that. We can see the K and the S especially. Those are two letters that are infamous for jetting out to the, right hand side on their lower sections, but he stacks them on top of one another beautifully. And sure, his second letter does shoot out to the right, but he's able to handle that perfectly well as well. So this is a perfect example of what we just talked about on the previous throwie. Also, we'll give this a good 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10. I think that's pretty good for this one. Beautiful throwie, well done, nice control. Before we move on to the next one, if you guys are struggling with any of the topics in today's video, be sure to check out the playlist that we made that teaches you everything you have to know about graffiti, everything from hand styles, throwies, different tips and tricks, and various other tutorials. You can find it right up here in the cards, and it should help you out. Next up, we got a Smiz tag, and I like this a lot. The ability in order to take one of the heaviest letters and make it have virtually no weight at all has to be just about one of my favorite things to see in graffiti, and that's exactly what Smiz does with his I. Also, he does a great job of balancing the left side with the right side by having a large S and a large Z. Now, I don't want to get too nitpicky and say, oh, you could increase the S's weight in order to match the Z, that way you balance out the name a little bit better, because this is done outdoors. But beautiful hand style overall. I like it quite a bit. I'm gonna give this a solid 8 out of 10. I think it's pretty good. This person with the umbrella looks more like a circus tent over their face is really distracting, but not a bad throwie at all. Pretty basic letters. These are pretty much standard structures for throwies, for the C, the I, and the S. It also looked like a little bit of a inconvenient spot, right? Because you got these bars here kind of blocking your path. And anybody who paints outside, sometimes there's like an obscurity of sorts that you just kind of got to work around, and it can be a little bit of a pain sometimes. But otherwise, really, really good stuff. I like it quite a bit. Not bad. Pretty standard. Kept it simple, and he practiced the basics. Would you look at that? We're gonna give that a solid 7, 6 out of 10, somewhere around that ballpark. Really well done. That pretty much wraps up today's video, guys. My apologies if I wasn't able to get to everybody. Something weird on Instagram is happening where not everybody's able to send me their pictures, and some of the ones that I do get, I can't open. I don't know what's happening. I'll try to look into it, but my apologies if I open your message but I didn't see an image. With that said though, guys, if you want to learn more about graffiti and you want to upgrade your pieces, check out some of the books we published in the description down below. And if you want some tutorials on some of the topics we talked about today, like graffiti's fundamentals, or throwie tutorials, or hand style tutorials, check out the best How to Do Graffiti playlist anywhere online right up here, with more graffiti content down here on the bottom. And I'll catch you guys back here next week. Thanks for watching.